Besides, I just handed in me notice and collected me weeks of pay. And good riddance. Now what am I going to do?
Hush now. It'll all work itself out in the wash, Nora.
Don't mention that word wash against me, James.
I also have some bad news and some good news, although I'm not sure which is which.
I don't think I could stomach any more bad news tonight, James.
In that case, I'll give you the good news first. I've given my notice to quit at the paper by the end of the month.
I thought you said you had good news.
Well, the bad news is, I heard of a teaching post in Trieste in northern Italy in September. Will you come with me, Nora, and we can put all this behind us?
Oh, James, you're the right one. Keeping me on tenterhooks with me own misfortune, and all the while keeping the good news from me. Sure, that's why I love you. Of course I'll go with you.
We'll have to elope, of course, because my father wouldn't understand. Then there's the question of money to get us there to set up accommodation until I get paid in hand.
I know it's not a lot, but I have £10 saved in my week's wages here. That makes £11 and 6 pence altogether.
Don't you worry about money. I'll get 2 weeks severance pay when I finish up the paper, and I'll borrow enough to see us through from friends. Between Gagarty, Cosgrave, and Skeffington, I should be able to strum up a tidy sum.
In that case, James, let's go and celebrate our future in style. And it's on me.
Why not? But it'll have to be our little secret for the moment.
End of scene 9. Scene 10, the bachelor party. Lights up on Finn's Hotel. A men's night out, the night before Finnegans' death. James Joyce, Leopold Bloom, and Tim Finnegan are drinking.
Right. Who's around
Right.
next?
Whose round is it next?
I got the last, so it must be yours.
No way, I got the one before you.
Gentlemen, please. My treat. A barman around here, please.
You should write that one up, James. I thought he'd never buy a round. He can count his money while it's still in his pocket.
That's because he doesn't bring any out with him.
Tim, could I trouble you for a pound till Friday? I seem to have forgotten my wallet. Changed coats before I left, you see.
I told you, James. I wish I'd fiver on that one at 25 to 1. You part with your money way too easily. That's why you're always broke. Maybe I could tap old Bloom here for a few bob now that he's the flush.
Look, you're getting a pint, you go out of it. You won't see that again till next Christmas. You can write that up, rest assured.
The waitress serves drinks to the men. Tim pinches her bottom.
I'm Monto with some bluesy now, Tim.
Nor a hussy, nor a whore. No, not you. It's a fine filly I see here before me. Well-bred and well-fed. All the right places, too.
I'm not a horse, Tim, but I'll take that as a compliment.
I accept your butt.
Slaps her bottom again.
After all, it's your best profile.
Waitress smiles off.
Well, Tim, you never lost your touch with the women.
Touch being the optimum word, but don't tell Mrs. Finnegan.
Ah, did I touch a soft spot with you, Tim?
Not half as soft a spot as Mrs. Finnegan touched last time she was there.
The barman serves more drinks.
Well, James, and how are things in the literary world for you?
Literally littered with litter of the literary kind. A proverbial banquet of verbal excrement, ready to be consumed from the rear end of all the farcical talent, self-indulgent, in abundance from every end of this godforsaken land.
Better to be a journalist like yourself, so. A steady line with a steady wage, with nothing to consume except the deceit and lies that line the pockets of the aristocracy of this ungrateful state.
Indeed, Patty, and which of course leaves this state in the state in which it's in.
And what's the big celebration tonight in Ada? Might I be so bold to ask?
A gentleman's night, to celebrate my new tenure in Italy this October as a teacher.
Another good man gone from the cradle of learning. Finnegan seems to be in rare form tonight.
Indeed, there's nothing rare about Finnegan around free drink.
A drink, gentlemen.
There's nothing like a little drop amongst friends about the creativeness back in a man's life.
Or life itself with all its creativity to put a drop back in a man's mouth, or that of his friends.
Ah, the old Ishkabetha, as ye say here. The water of life, like the Euphrates flowing through the Garden of Eden itself.
Aqua della vitae, they call it in Trieste. Last time I heard of that part of it, Eden.
Oh, that's news to me. Has Jameson flowed that far already, comprade?
Only to those noble enough to pursue their talents, long since rejected by the fellow Irishmen.
Ignorance for the ignorant. Talent and expression for the rest of the world.
Now, look at me as an example. Impoverished by truth and reality in my own quarter, and back from my shelter on the banks of the Seine, with only my sanity to keep me sane, if you get what I'm saying.
That's what happens when you get self-indulgent writing books about yourself in Greeks that no one understands. So you're going via Paris, then? Give my regards to Napoleon.
It's better to write something tangible, like, for example, love gained or lost, or life and death, like Shakespeare. Weddings and funerals, that's where it all lies. Don't they just love a good wake here?
There's no life without death, and no death without life, and each celebrated by the water of life itself, the old Ishkabetha, the baptism of the Irish.
That's very profound coming from you. Barman, Jameson's all around. I feel an epiphany coming on. A toast, gentlemen, to life, to Ireland, and the soul of all mankind since the creation. Gentlemen, away with us to Monto, the living heart of Dublin, and all it awaits in our otherwise languid senses.
Hear, hear.
Tim, I'll have to pass on this one tonight. I promised to meet Nora and take her to dinner later.
I understand, James. Throw that back, Bloom, me boy. Monto awaits your pleasure.
End of scene 10. Scene 11. The Banshee calls. Lights up on Dame Street in Dublin. Finnegan enters, drunk, singing, with a bottle of whiskey. He is coming home at 3 a.m. after a night in Monto.
Whacked for the Toodaloo Luda, Daddy. I'll never see a night like that again as long as I live. Tim, don't be talking like that to yourself. Sure, you've loads of friends and good times ahead, but you and me, Jimmy, we're old friends, aren't we? We go back a long way, so let's have a party glass together for old time's sake.
He sees a sinister figure in the fog ahead of him.
Hark! What's this in the distance? The Banshee? Or the Angel of Death himself coming to take some poor soul out of this life? Oh, God, preserve us.
Ah, Finnegan, I thought it was you. I recognized your voice from 100 paces away, and the distinct smell of Jameson from your breath before the fog unfolded you, and the whiskey there in all your drunken glory.
You put the heart across me there, if it isn't the bold Jamesy himself in all his own glory. Back from a dead life in ancient literature and modern farcism. How ails the Greek and the French with you, Jamesy?
Far better in mind, body, and soul than most on the shore. And how ails your autobiography, Tim? Is it time for me to finish it?
That's very notable of you, Jamesy, but typically Irish, like relatives at a funeral, or blowflies and worms that come to consume the rotting flesh before it's interred. You couldn't wait till I'm dead before you take a share in the spoils.
There'll be no spoils for me, Tim, in this life nor in the next for you. What we have we'll lose, and what we lose is gone forever.
Will you share a toast with us to what we have left in this life? It's the best there is, James. Jameson, the life, soul, and redemption of all of the Irish.
You never spoke truer words from here to the 3 rivers of Eden.
A toast, then, to life, to death before and after, to the Garden of Eden and eternal life.
You'll find no life after that bottle, Tim. Only the state of your own natural affairs in the morning, with bile rising up your gullet, and all your orifices operating out of normal function, and innate for lack of bodily control.
I'm not dead yet, Jamesy, and I'd hate myself and the whiskey here to prove you wrong.
There's nothing wrong with life itself, Tim. It's what happens after that that causes problems for me.
Ah, you see, Jamesy, men of little faith have no hope and no belief, but not me. I'll rise up like the rest of them, like Jesus and Lazarus and all the faithful, with tombs cracking open in one last cataclysmic event of godliness, to suck in the Holy Spirit, which is the life breath of every dead man that ever existed.
In that case, tell Airy I never existed, and will have no grief in the next life. I'll just lie with the daisies and watch them grow and smile upon the earth.
Don't go godless on me tonight, James. Have a jammy with me for old time's sake, will you?
For what sake? For the sake of this country or government, and how it treats its own people, and a God that, as far as I'm concerned, doesn't exist either.
What do you mean, doesn't exist? That's impossible. Like something and nothing can't coexist at the same time. Like you and me, Jamesy, in the same lifetime. Thanks, but I'll finish me own story no matter how long it takes. And I'll let no man interfere with my own beliefs.
If that's what you believe, then the future looks bleak for mankind.
I'll have to stop you there, Jamesy, to make it all complete. Gentlemen, 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 Your Honor, Jamesons all around. A toast. Never did I hold this world in contempt for my weakness, nor did I not believe in God's forgiveness. And of course, there's always the whiskey here to wash it all away.
Contempt of the world and the weakness of man is to discover anything beyond this life, Tim.
I'll never believe that, Jamesy, as long as I live. Not now, not ever, not over my own dead body. And with that, I'll bid you good night, sir.
Tim staggers off into the fog, singing Whack for the Tooraloo Laddie, as James stands with hat and cane watching him go for the last time. End of scene 11. Scene 12, the brewery. Lights up on the Guinness Brewery in Dublin.
Mr. Golding, Mr. Golding. Finnegans after falling off the ladder, and he broke every rung on the way down, and the bricks landed on top of him. I think he's dead. You better call a priest. Oh God, come quick.
End of scene 12. Scene 13, the wake. Lights up on Tim Finnegan's house. Tim Finnegan is laid out on the table. People are talking over the body and having drinks. Stephen consoles Kitty.
Ah, Kitty, it's a sad day for all of us. And so sudden, too.
Thanks, Stephen. Truth is, I don't know what I'd do without him. I'm beside myself with grief.
There, Kitty. Let it all out, love.
It's a terrible day, James, for all concerned. Kitty is beside herself.
Indeed, Leo. A very sad day for Ireland to lose such a great man. A real-life character that captured the heart and soul of all that it was to be a real Dubliner.
And to die in such unfortunate circumstances. The abruptness with which a life can end and the accidental circumstances make the impact of the trauma even more shocking and upsetting for poor Kitty.
Yes, it'll take Kitty a long time to come to terms with the situation. It's hard enough to deal with death after a long-term illness, but unexpected like this is another matter. It's a good turnout all the same, but where's Mulligan?
In the Palace Bar, last I heard, halfway through a bottle of whiskey. We better be on our guard for Kitty's sake.
Indeed. Mulligan would drink in him, could wake the dead, and have the whole of Glasnevin cemetery gnashing their teeth and weeping at the graveside like the final judgment if we're not careful.
Perish that thought. To Tim.
I'll get you a nice port and a brandy to settle you down.
Oh, thanks, Noah. You were always a good friend to me in the bad times.
Hush now. Sure, that's what friends are for.
Lights down. Lights up on the removal. The undertakers take the closed coffin out of the room for removal to the church. The same table is set for a meal in the background. Lights up on the wake meal, where everybody is sitting around the table.
Here, Kitty, have another one. It'll settle you down a bit.
Thanks, Noah.
Did you manage to get it in the obituary column in time for the evening issue? After all, we wouldn't want Tim to be late for his own funeral, wouldn't we?
I passed it on to the print room this morning. Besides, the only thing that Tim was ever late for was late work.
Ah, that's true. But there's late work and there's too late. Seems too late for poor old Tim now. You can't get a sick note for that one.
By the look of Mulligan there, a sick note seems imminent for tomorrow. The great duo, the diadem of the Dublin drinking classes, now cut down to half its size with twice as much to drink.
Indeed. And what of the outpouring of grief today from so-called friends barely in his acquaintance? So-called friends that wouldn't let him bob or the price of a pint yesterday, now indulging in his untimely demise.
The indulgence of the Irish has always been to indulge in any reason with which they can indulge themselves, especially where alcoholic beverages can be obtained for free. Charlatans have always taken advantage of the good nature of the bereaved and close kin to sate their own thirst, be it friend or foe.
Mulligan stands up, drunk, to make a speech.
Ah, here we go. Mulligan's off at the starting post.
I'd like to say a few words about my dear old friend Tim Finnegan.
Would you have some respect and not be making a show of yourself in a bargain? Can't you see poor Kitty is upset enough already?
Upset is it? And she driving him to the drink all these years?
Watch your tongue. And you the one keeping him company and encouraging him all the while.
Sure, what are good friends for? I loved Tim and Tim loved me. He loved a good old sing-song. He did, to take his worries away.
Mulligan, that's quite enough now.
Sing, buck me boy, he'd say, and I'd pipe into the pub with no beer. That always brought a smile to his face.
Please, Mulligan.
Come on, Kitty, we'll go into the kitchen.
There's nothing so lonesome or nothing so drear as to sit at the bar at the pub with no beer. Ah, Tim, why did you die on me? Tim, don't leave me like this.
Stephen and James take Mulligan by an arm each.
Right, Mulligan. I think we need to adjourn before things get out of hand.
Come on, Mulligan. There's another drink waiting for you in the Oval Bar.
They escort Mulligan out the door. End of scene 13. Scene 14, Finnegans' funeral. Lights up on the cemetery. The funeral mourners enter behind the carriage to the graveyard. The coffin is lifted out by the grave and the priest says funeral prayers. A messenger boy arrives looking for James Joyce and gives him an urgent telegram at the back of the crowd.
I have to leave on urgent business. Would you be so kind as to make my excuses to Kitty for me?
Nothing bad, I hope.
An urgent meeting with my publisher. I'll catch up later.
The priest finishes the prayers while the coffin is being lowered into the grave. The coffin slips and bursts open. Everyone looks into the grave in disbelief.
Now look what you did, you big oaf.
It wasn't me, you great lummox. The rope was slippy.
You're pissed, that's what's wrong.
I'm not half as pissed as you, and you eat half a bottle of whiskey in you already. Sure, that's what killed Tim.
True enough. It was the whiskey in the end.
You're right one to talk, Nora. And you're in the snug every day before noon.
And you're joining me every time me and Tim were having problems with drink or other women.
You're right one. Having your fair share of him when I wasn't around. And everyone else's husband when you get the chance.
God forgive you, Kitty, but it's a foul mouth you have.
Kitty swings at Nora, and they start fighting. The fight spreads amongst Mulligan and Stephen and the rest of the mourners. A little old man is drinking whiskey out of an agate in his pocket as he watches the fighting relatives. The priest tries to intervene.
Gentlemen, gentlemen, please, have some respect for the dead.
And he gets punched in the belly. Kitty swings at Nora, who ducks the blow, and hits the old man as he takes a gulp of whiskey by the graveside, knocking him into the grave on top of the open coffin face down. His whiskey spills on Tim, and he scrambles to get out of the grave. Just as he is nearly out, a hand grabs him from the grave and pulls him back in. The old man screams.
God help me, the devil himself has me by the leg.
On hearing this, the fight stops, and they all gather around the grave. They look in and see Tim sitting up in the coffin as he grabs the whiskey from the shocked old man, looks up, and says,
You think you'd seen a ghost, Buck? Did I miss something?
The crowd jumps around in elation. End of scene 14. Scene 15. Reality. James is awoken by Nora at dawn after sleeping in his desk to Zurich.
James! James! Ah, there you are. I was wondering where you'd gotten to.
Sorry, dear. I must have drifted off to sleep. What time is it? Goodness me, the train! I have to meet Sylvia in Paris tonight.
He opens his leather satchel and puts the finished draft of Finnegans' Wake into it. He grabs his hat, coat, and cane hurriedly.
James, have you forgotten something?
James goes back for his satchel and kisses Nora on passing, then exits in a rush. The last scene is James looking out the train window and placing Finnegans' Wake on the seat beside him as he starts to daydream. The end. Terrific audience. I'd love to hear what thoughts you had, if anything, questions, comments, what you got from the play, anything like that.
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy.
Well, not everyone at once, okay?
Hard to hear with the cacophony of voices. Anyone?
How long have you been performing this?
It's a very good question. We actually, not long. We actually, as a couple of the scenes, we literally, I think, read through once. And we were working right up until about 6:50 tonight. It's always hard to get people together, and when a larger cast, it's even harder. So we probably read through it in its entirety kind of once before we did it tonight. We did work, we had about 3 meetings where we worked on, who was going to walk where and that kind of stuff. But it was pretty, I mean, it's fairly, we didn't have a lot of rehearsal. So it was really a lot for the actors to sort of step up to the plate, and it's not quite a cold reading, but it's about one step away from that. So thank you for that.
You mentioned you kind of talked to the author. I'm wondering kind of like what drove him to write this text, especially the pressure of writing about someone in your family is such a massive figure. If you kind of talk to that pressure and
Absolutely. I mean, we didn't talk. We talked a little bit about that, and I don't know, Becky, if you have anything else to add as well, because I know you talked to him a little more. But when I spoke to him about that, he said that actually this play, he just sort of sat down and almost wrote the whole thing in one sitting, just the first part of it. He's obviously grown up and lived, the whole family. It's kind of the family business, I guess, in a way, in terms of having this legacy. So it's very much a part of his life, the culture, and his group of family. So he said he really just sort of sat down and wrote it, and it just kind of all came out all at once, which is a very interesting sort of thing because obviously process is different for everyone. But he said his process was really more he just had the idea, and almost the whole play, fully formed, came out all in one sitting, which is a pretty cool, kind of an interesting thing. I don't know, Becky, if you have anything to add to that or not, but okay. Good. Thank you for that. That's a good question. Anything else? Well, we'll just go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the actors did a fabulous job, and it was a lot of fun. Well done. Well done.
Thank you very much. I think they did a fabulous job, too. And like I said, especially with very little rehearsal, some fairly complex material, a lot of really big words, some unfamiliar terms. So absolutely, we'll have one more round of applause and you guys can eat. So thank you.